Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. I don't know if you can get more Midwestern than sports and food, and having a good debate about them. Today's guests not only formed a friendship over the two and are experts in both fields, but have now started their own podcast. They are also both sharing their honest and inspiring stories as they navigate chronic conditions. As a fellow original Chicagoan, I am beyond excited to be chatting with today's guests. Please welcome Billy Zureikat and Chef Dan Jacobs, co-hosts of Over the Line. Hello. Hi, guys. How's everything in Milwaukee? Good.
It's pretty nice today. Today's pretty nice, you know? It's like warm, sunny, but people are out, you know? It's summertime. So this weekend is Irish Fest. It's basically St. Patrick's Day, but in summertime.
Oh, boy.
Just, you know, another reason for a bunch of people in Wisconsin to drink some booze.
Yeah, you're just masquerading, giving a name for some reason.
Totally.
It's hot and humid.
I'm just going to
and
say,
drunk.
do we really need an excuse?
We don't, but it seems that it makes it more fun. Or at least it allows for different games to be played. Like, who knows? I don't know. I had just come home from Denver yesterday, and on the plane, there were like 3 or 4 groups of people that were literally traveling for Irish Fest, which I thought was hilarious.
Wow.
Get me away. I'll go the other direction.
I know.
No offense to the Irish.
Of course.
I'm offending the Irish and their potato love.
All of us in our potato love, but agreed. There were years that I so loved being downtown Chicago on St. Patrick's Day, and many afternoons I don't really remember, but it's just not my thing anymore. I am happy to drink my rosé in my kitchen at home.
That's the move.
Well, I know you two talk sports and food on Over the Line. Sadly, I can't talk much sports with you. I do know the basketball podcast Dunked On because my boyfriend listens to it at least twice a day, and I hear it every time he's brushing his teeth. So shout out to those guys. But let's take things back to the beginning instead. How did you both first fall in love with food, and what were your favorite foods as kids?
Go ahead, Dan.
So, I mean, growing up as a kid, food wasn't really something that it wasn't really like the enjoying part wasn't the number one part of the food being made. It was definitely more about like, how do we get fed? My parents both worked like multiple jobs, so we didn't really have this, you know, just gastronomic kitchen growing up. The one thing that, you know, I think I liked more than anything else was Chinese food. And it was something that, like, and I know I'm not picking just one thing. I'm kind of going all over, but Fridays were Chinese food nights. And so it just was one of those things like every Friday we got Chinese food from the same place, and I loved it.
I would say for me, it's like I was just any kid in Chicago. I loved pizza. I played sports growing up, so pizza was synonymous with championships and season ending. We'd always have pizza parties at the end of the year. The Book It program at Pizza Hut, shout out reading books and getting pizza. That was the best thing in the world, where you'd read a book and they'd have a program called Book It where you'd get stickers to fill in, and once you get like a certain amount of books read, you get a free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. And nothing was better than going and getting that pizza and playing like X-Men the arcade game. And so I remember that growing up. And then like Friday nights or the weekends, we would order, you know, some classic like Chicago thin crust tavern style pizza for like Palermo's on the south side or Vito and Nick's. And just having that and looking forward to that was the break from the normal traditional Middle Eastern food that my mom would make. My family's Jordanian, and my mom would typically make like, you know, traditional Middle Eastern dishes. And as a kid, like I would eat them, but I would never really want that. I wanted pizza and, you know, more, you know, classic things kids would want to eat. So that was my early connection to food, was, you know, celebrating sports basically.
And definitely interesting that both of your choices are things that are connected to what you're doing today.
So weird.
Like, you're just like, I fell in love with it then, and we're not giving this up.
I mean, I always thought that when we opened up DanDan, my whole overarching thought behind it was that I was going to make people happy by making something that made me happy. And that was really as simple as it was. There was no real great, you know, marketing ploy. It was just, this makes me happy. I think it'll make other people happy.
Yeah, and I didn't have a lifelong dream to get into food. That's something I pivoted. That's my life and story kind of, I don't want to say fell into it, but, I never had this passion to be a chef or anything, related to the food industry early on. It was just something I liked, but it was never something that I ever thought I'd kind of find myself a huge part of my life now, like it is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Dan, I can say I love DanDan too. I have food allergies. You guys did amazing last year that I went.
That's awesome.
So
Good.
it was
That's awesome.
I'm peanuts and tree nuts. So especially different Pan Asian food. Like, I know I'm difficult, but I loved it. So thank you.
I'm so happy you enjoyed it. I mean, that's one of the things I think we do really well is we definitely make sure we can take care of pretty much every allergy that's out there.
Yes, definitely. And Billy, I still haven't gotten my hands on your pizza yet. I'm going to have to make a trip to Chicago just for it. It looks insane. What?
I know.
What?
I still haven't tried a pizza. No,
I made pizza for your staff.
Oh, well, that's a different thing. I like actually going to a place. I guess I have had your pizza. Never mind, I lied. I've had it.
But you don't think you've had the Trip and Billy, though?
I have not had the Trip
Okay,
and Billy.
no, that's weird, and it needs to change.
It is weird. We need to change that.
Yeah, that's very weird. Okay, sorry.
Well, I'm just going to give you guys a marketing idea already. You need to do a live show of Over the Line at DanDan and have some sort of collaboration where there's like either pizza flavors from Tripping Billy's in the food or doing a pizza with your flavors.
Dude, we could do crab rangoons with the Tripping Billy.
Oh,
pizza.
easy. Or just,
in the jar.
I'll just do a crab rangoon pizza.
I know, we just flip that thing over.
Yeah, that'd be easy.
There you go.
I've been wanting. I mean, totally. We talked about that before. We've always talked.
We always talk about this.
Just been wanting to do it. We've never done an actual food collaboration or like a pop-up together or anything like that. We just
it can't seem to come together. We'll get there.
Yeah,
You'll get there. And especially because there's jarred involved. Like, I feel like that's an easy way to bring it into things.
Yeah, always. Literally, I think both of our minds, even though we come from very different backgrounds, our minds are always trying to get ahead of things and are always on the move. And like, what's the next thing we do? How can we innovate something or reinvent something or just create something new and fun, whether it's a classic dish or something new? It's like we're always trying to think it. And, he does that on a much different level than I do, but my mind is always there. And I think like he does, I believe, pretty well, or pretty common, I should say.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think that's very entrepreneurial of you both. Like, you're always having to think, like, what's coming next? What's coming next? You have to iterate. You have to pivot, just like you did for your work. So let's talk about those days before you both started something that was completely of your own. Dan, what was the aha moment that you wanted to become a chef? And Billy, talk us through your incredible broadcasting career.
I mean, there wasn't much of a aha moment. I feel like it was just, I was 18 or 19. I was working in Door County, Wisconsin as a short order line cook, but I saw how cool the nighttime cooks were, and I wanted to become a nighttime cook. And then it was like one of these things where it's like, man, people think chefs are cool. I thought it was cool. It was kind of just that simple. And then, fast forward, it was like I think it was the second restaurant I worked at in Door County. It was people were in chef coats, and they're like, you should go to culinary school. So I moved back to Chicago and kind of never looked back. I've been working in this industry since I was 19. So we're almost at 30 years. We're at like 27 years or something, 28 years. And it's been amazing, and it's something that like I found a passion. I remember my mom saying to me, she was really jealous at the fact that at such a young age, I realized what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Whereas like she's like 73 now, and she's like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And it's, and I think I knew at like a young age, at 19, this was it. So I always kind of knew that a restaurant was going to be the thing. We fast forward 2015, me and my business partner, Dan, we used to do these Best of Milwaukee beer dinner series, dinners together. And it was, there was like 5 of us that would do it. I remember the owners of the restaurant I was working at were like weirdly jealous that I was doing this, and they weren't asked, and they were being real weird about the whole thing. And like, we're like, well, you can't do it. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to work for anybody anymore. And I was on the phone with Danny, and he was like, we should just go into business together. And the next thing I knew, we've been in business. This November will be 10 years we've been business partners together. We started working on DanDan and EsterEv in November 2015. Opened up DanDan in July of 2016, and then EsterEv in November 2016.
So you knew right away that you wanted to do two types of concepts.
Well, I knew that. So even though that the Chinese food was something that like meant so much to me, and it was something that I feel like is a comfort food for me, I knew that I wanted to do something that was also going to be a little bit more special and be like a little bit more like a tasting menu sort of situation. And that's what EsterEv is. EsterEv is, it's a tasting menu named after my great grandmother Esther and Dan's grandmother Evelyn. And we based this because those are the women that cook for our families. And so we, kind of went into it with that thought of kind of like recreating dishes that, really kind of meant something to us. I mean, and that's evolved over the years into like, whatever we feel like cooking at this point. But it's been fun. I always knew I was going to want to do something else. Like there was going to be this and that. And we've opened and closed 4 different restaurants now. I mean, it just kind of happens. Like some things work, some things don't. And there's no real rhyme or reason to it. We got really lucky with DanDan and we're just going to keep on rolling. So the whole thing, I always like to say restaurants are like, I'd say like 40, 45% really, really hard work. And then the other 55, 60% is just being lucky. Like just having the right space at the right time with all of the things that you needed to make it work. And it just is. It just does.
Yeah. And given that I've talked to folks and they're saying 2025 feels like 2020 in some similar ways where you're just a lot of uncertainty right now. It's hard to know where things are going. How are people going to be eating out and how we're getting ingredients. So keep on keeping on. I saw my grandmother, Evelyn, this weekend on her farm in central Illinois. So a lot of connections there. Where did you start in Door County?
So my first restaurant job was the cookery in Fish Creek as a short order line cook. It was just like eggs, every way you can think of, hash browns, pancakes. That's where I learned that if you're running low on bacon and you're in the weeds, you just throw it in the deep fryer, like all the bacon in the deep fryer at the same time, which was kind of gross when you think about that. But it's, it was definitely like it was brutal. Also, I was 19 years old. Nobody should have hired me to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
That was not a good move. But,
especially if you were like drinking the night before or just out late.
I'm 19.
I don't.
A good move.
Yeah. Oh man, and Door County is just such a classic for folks in the Chicago area and in Milwaukee. We grew up going there, so it was really special last year on Top Chef when they did so many of those challenges that were related to Door County foods.
Oh, really? For who? For you?
For the viewer, I guess. Sorry, because I understand that's difficult.
The fish boil was the real funny one. They're just Gail's like, so Dan, what do you think of fish boils? And I was like, they're terrible.
They're hot.
She's like, way to sell that one for television. Thanks for that. And I was like, I don't know, man. You want me to be honest, or you want me to be like, yep, they're great? Because I was like, that's about the level of enthusiasm you're going to get out of me on boiling fish.
Yeah, for sure.
But so I thought for sure Door County was going to be really against me. I was like, all right, this is going to air. Wisconsin's going to be mad at me. Like everyone's going to hate me. And what I realized was I just gave everyone else permission to also hate it and to be like, this is exactly what I've thought.
It's not like the best way to eat fish, but it's probably it's like the first way a lot of us ate it. I know that's how I was like, oh, okay, fish is like this. And, it's more just like the viewer, again, like the excitement of the fire and watching it go up the hill, and then everyone traipses along, and then you're going to have your fresh fish dinner. And it's very different now.
I did feel bad for Torch. I felt bad for Torch, who's the Door County fish boil chef. And he was like, I kind of shit all over his job. And it was just like, sorry, dude.
He's probably still going. Don't worry. Well, Billy, my fellow journalism friend, how did you get your start? And what made you fall in love with telling stories and doing it for so long?
Well, so I, in high school, played basketball and played basketball my whole life growing up. And senior year of high school, I had this epiphany that I'm 5'9", I'm not going to make the NBA, and I need to figure out a backup plan for the future. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. And I am like, okay, I'd maybe be an agent. That'd be really cool. Represent players. And then I decided I didn't want to go to law school. That's not going to happen. I'm like, okay, how about a medical trainer, training staff? I want to go to medical school. But I was always a creative writer, and I'm just a naturally creative person. So I took a journalism class my senior year of high school. It went over really well, and I was like, you know what? I'll just cover sports. to be a member of the media. So I went to Lewis University, which is in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, near Romeoville, near like Joliet, Illinois. It's a smaller Division II school, but it was a perfect situation because they had a full athletic program. I can go on. I'll go write for the newspaper. I just literally walked on, said I want to start writing. I started as a beat reporter for women's soccer, and I taught myself that was something that was going to be completely out of my element. Like, I liked soccer, but I didn't like it that much, and so I started that, and I took that very seriously, and I worked my way up very quickly, and I ended up becoming the sports editor of the newspaper a year later. And, well, I was the men's basketball beat reporter. That was like my main goal at first, and then I worked my way up, ended up being the sports editor of the newspaper there, the Lewis University Flyer, and also became the sports director of the radio station, WLRA Radio. I hosted my own sports talk show called The Practice Squad, and I was always a very ambitious person. So I wanted to, I always dream big. That's, I think, a narrative that is always going to be with me. And at that time, I didn't want to just host a college sports radio show where no one would call in and it's just going to be me talking about the college teams. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to talk about the pro teams. And I also wanted to get pro players on. So I started getting a hold of media guides. And I had contacts now with the different sports teams, whether it's locally or really throughout any league. Everything's listed. So, like, if the Miami Heat are traveling on the road, you can look up and see where they're staying, which hotel they're at. So I would call the hotels, book players. I would call the media departments and get players on my sports talk show. And then the cool part was I ended up getting a media pass for the Bears. I didn't say that I was with Lewis University Radio. I was with WLRA Radio. No one double-checked that. And so I had a media pass for the 2003 season, and I would go to every game, every Sunday, every home game, I should say, and I'd sit in the press box with a polo shirt on, trying to be professional. I didn't cheer for the team. I learned how to be professional and not a fan at a very young age. And I would ask, a couple questions here or there in the post game in the locker room. Mainly would just actually go up to players and say, hey, can you record what's called a liner, which is basically an advertisement or promo for your show. My show was called The Practice Squad. So I'd say, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you read this quick line? Hey, this is Brian Urlacher, and you're listening to The Practice Squad. I had all of these players have, like, promoing my radio show. Yeah, and going back to the writing and everything, I wrote this huge story that was kind of my big break in college. We were the first Division II program in sports to win a Division I national championship. We did it for men's volleyball. It was this interesting loophole that we were a Division II school, but we actually competed at a D1 level. Okay. And so the Lewis University Flyers beat Stanford for the national championship. I had a really good relationship with the head coach, and he messaged me, texted me one day. He's like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And so he broke the news to me that a couple players on the team played professionally in both Brazil and Mexico. While they're on the team in college. And so he's like, sanctions are going to come down very soon. I'm going to give you this information. I'm going to be resigning, but I'm going to give this information to you now. So I wrote this really big story, and I broke it, and it was huge. The title got stripped, and then it opened up a whole investigation to our athletic department, and a bunch of sanctions went down. But it was huge for me because I won this huge Associated College Press Award for Best News Story, Best Sports Story. And it gave me this confidence that, like, yeah, I know I'm good. I am doing things the right way. And I eventually decided that radio was a route for me that I wanted to go into. And I ended up getting an internship at ESPN Radio in Chicago. I got hired less than 6 months later at 20 years old while I was still a junior in college. I got hired there, and I began my broadcasting career, or, my career in sports media at age 20. I think I was the youngest person they've ever hired at the time. And I started as a producer. First big task at ESPN Chicago was producing the White Sox in 2005, which led to the 2005 White Sox World Series.
So you're the reason they won?
I was the reason they won. So I was the sound producer. So I basically create all of the audio and the creative work that went into the show. So, like, if you're listening to a broadcast, whether it was a game or like a local sports talk show, anything that you heard on the show that wasn't the people speaking was done by me. So like the creative packages, the highlight packages, the funny bits, all these things were things that I could take in my head and tell stories and turn them into life. And I actually made John Rooney, the White Sox announcer who was going to be leaving at the end of the season, when the White Sox won the World Series, I made this like really sweet like send-off for him. And I made him cry in the air. that so much he called me after, said, can you put that on, this is showing our age, put that on a CD for me. And I want to keep that forever. So yeah, I eventually worked there for years. I produced the show that's still in the air in Chicago called The Waddle and Sylvie Show. It's a #1 talk show in Chicago. And I had fun. I loved taking these ideas in my head, and I love taking the challenge in radio. Obviously, you don't have video. I have to take audio and turn that into a story. And I did that. I loved taking those ideas in my head and putting it out there. And everything was great, except I got paid. I could have made more money working the mall. So I had to, I could have worked at like Hot Topic and sold t-shirts and made more money. So I resigned in 2010, and I didn't want to because I was at the peak, not even hitting my prime yet. But I just didn't want to, I didn't see myself sticking this out for 15, 20 years like a lot of people do. I was passionate about it, but I wanted more in my life. And I felt that industry took advantage of people because you worked for the big 4 letters, ESPN. They'll pay somebody less to take that job because it's in vogue and they want it. But I didn't want that. So yeah, I left in 2010, worked the last 15 years in logistics and transportation, completely different business, unrelated to anything I'm doing. But I needed to pay the bills, and I wanted to do something that was a little bit more, I wanted to do more in my life than just say I had a cool job. And so I had to make the tough decision to leave, before I can even hit my prime. But it's crazy how those skills end up helping me, and I use them now more than I did in my past.
Yeah. I mean, you're still storytelling. I have so many thoughts about everything you just said. One, congrats on everything that you've done so far. That is so
Thank
cool. You. After I went to journalism school at DePaul for my master's, I, like many young millennial women, said, I'm going to be an editor for a print magazine, and print was dying. And, we're 15 years later, and we're still dealing with how traditional media is going through big changes. I mean, the awful news about ASHOC for Eater Chicago.
We're going to be talking about that later today.
Talking about that because it's crazy.
I truly cannot believe it. I reached out to another podcast, Terms of Service today, who had posted about it and said, what can we all be doing? Do we need to do some sort of collective where not only do we celebrate him and the work of the other team members like Jeffy Mai, but what the heck is going to happen? I mean, Eater is one of the reasons I fell in love with wanting to be in lifestyle journalism before I got into startups. It's crazy.
I use Eater when I go to a new city and look at, where I'm going to go eat. It's scary to me because there's going to be less and less writers. What are we dependent on? Influencers or AI?
Yeah.
And literally
and both are garbage.
So just not, that's not it. It's just not, it's not what it should be. I mean, I don't know. It's tough.
Journalism in general is just not even just food media especially, because it's not like, okay, if it's not deemed as important as these other things, but it's awful. It's just going away. I remember when I was in college, when I was writing, people always said the newspaper industry is a dying industry. It's dying. Well, it's almost to the point where it's dead. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a wild run. I
mean, and if you look at that, then you're thinking, is writing, which for so many of us, whether we're writing or then, using it to speak, is that just going to be completely robotic going forward? I mean, it's such a beautiful way to express yourself. And so that one really hit hard. I'm hoping we all can do something to help out with that.
Yeah.
Same.
I think places like Substack, they'll give a platform now to writers that either have lost their jobs or people that want to actually get their writing out to the world. I feel like that is the one social platform that's really going to help. And with the paywalls and everything that you can create, at least generate a little bit of revenue for yourself too. And I know people that do really well on that. Michael Nagrant, great example in Chicago.
Yes.
One of the best writers around, most talented writers around. And one of the people that really believe in journalistic integrity and will be critical to people, but also will open the door for conversation. That's something that's dying. And he's an OG. And I think he's the best in Chicago and probably, honestly, in the country at what he does. And he has that platform that he's building through Substack because he doesn't have the newspapers anymore. And I think that's a great platform for it.
Yeah. It's one of the last honest places that you can go right now and write what you want to write. And there isn't going to be censorship, or there's not an algorithm that's going to be putting just some crazy politically motivated accounts over you. So getting a little bit back to you two, Dan, we heard your story about how you decided to get started on your own thing with Dan, your business partner. Billy, what was your moment that you said you wanted to be a little bit more entrepreneurial? I know you've got day job and logistics still going on. That is so many founders because, again, we've got to pay the bills. But when did you decide I'm also going to follow my passions a little bit more here, get Tripping Billy going, and start these great collaborations you've been doing?
So this all stems back to the career in sports that turned. I left sports media at 29, I believe, when I was 29 years old, something like that. Maybe even younger than that. I don't even know anymore. I'm turning into an old fart. But once I left sports media, and I was still playing basketball more recreationally now, like just pick up basketball with friends a couple times a week, I started losing my balance and falling while playing. And what started out as something that was very mild around the age of 30, where I just kind of chalked it up to, I hit 30 now, and this is what happens. I'm getting older. My prime is going away from me. And it wasn't anything that was really that apparent. I might trip and fall, get back up, and I'm fine. And it might happen once out of every 5 or 6 games, or maybe just once a night. So I just kind of carried on, ignored it. And then as time went on, those falls would happen more often. And I noticed that my running was becoming choppy, and little things like getting up and down and getting around the house, getting up and down stairs was becoming a little more difficult. And I started going to the doctor in 2016, doing a bunch of tests, and I got nothing but a bunch of medical bills. And it was really frustrating, and I didn't know what to do. Everything was inconclusive. I never had health issues in my life. There was no mobility or health issues in my family at all. And I kept it to myself, and I'm like, I'm just going to do what I did my whole life. I've been working since I was 15, so I'm like, I'm just going to get up, and every morning, 5 a.m., I'm going to go to the gym, work out, and just try to fight through whatever's going on. And I did. And I felt like I actually made progress for a little bit, but it was just putting a Band-Aid on something that was more serious. And after falling constantly and finding my mobility changing to the point where I couldn't get upstairs anymore without a railing. And when I was sitting down, I'd have to push up with my upper body to stand up. I finally got diagnosed in March of 2021 with what's called limb-girdle muscular dystrophy 2L. It's a very rare form of muscular dystrophy that I was born with, yet has no treatments or cures. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Once I was excited to finally know what's going on, because during that time, friends didn't know anything was even wrong with me. I hit it really well. Family didn't know anything was wrong with me. And I was okay. But then when I got that diagnosis, I finally had an answer. Yet I was just taken over with grief. I was fixated on loss. Everything that I lost in my life, can't play sports, I can't run or jump, I can't do these things. Basic things have changed. I was miserable. And I've had victories in my life. I've already went over some of them. And I've been a successful person, but I was just fixated on what I can't do anymore. But the cool part of my story is when I lost the ability to play sports during that time period when everything was turbulent, the kitchen helped me find calm. It gave me a place that was like my anchor. And I joke I traded my jersey in for an apron. I started teaching myself how to cook and bake. I liked cooking. Yeah. I started cooking in my mid-20s when I was kind of on my own. And I always liked Food Network. And I'm not talking about no offense to you, competition shows. I liked classic cooking shows watching Emerald, Rachel Ray, and Bobby Flay where they're cooking, not in a competition. That's what I love. And I taught myself how to learn how to cook through that and reading cookbooks, deep diving on YouTube. And I eventually got into pizza making just because I wanted to do savory baking. So breads and pizzas and everything. And so I started making pizzas and to keep, myself kind of grounded. And I used to just make pizzas and give them to friends or give them to family and, hey, try this. And I started getting confidence. And in 2020, when there was really nothing to do besides go to the grocery store or the farmer's market, I always joke that I black out when I go to farmers markets, and I came back home with 5 pounds of shishito peppers for some weird reason, and I never really knew what to do with them besides roasting them or blistering them. That's the only way I ever had them. But at this point of my cooking journey, or whatever you want to call it, I didn't need recipes anymore. I felt comfortable enough to create on my own. I understood some concepts, basic things. So I made a shishito pepper cream sauce with those peppers, shallots, garlic, heavy cream, Parmesan, nutmeg, and I made this cream sauce. And I didn't know what to do with it at the time, but it was summer. I was making lots of pizzas. I know corn and peppers go together, and I made this shishito pepper cream sauce with corn, pickled jalapenos, mozzarella, and cheddar. And it was something that was my own, that didn't look like a traditional pizza, didn't taste like a traditional pizza, didn't smell like one, but it was something I was proud of. And then the big break for me was, and this is where the kind of the epiphany kind of comes in a little bit, 6 months after my diagnosis, I get a message from Derek Tung, the owner of Paulie G's in Logan Square, where I live in Chicago. And he reached out and said, we're doing a pizza making event to celebrate the best home pizza makers. I'm picking 7 pizza makers to make a pizza of their choice. I'd love for you to take part in this event and make your pepper and corn pizza you had me try once. Derek was kind of like a pizza mentor over the years. I was just a customer, but I used to go in and pick his brain about pizza making so I can get better. And just like I was with sports, I always wanted to work and get better at it. So I would just make pizzas and say, hey, try this. So I ended up making that pizza for him or for them at the event. I never worked in a professional kitchen in my life, never worked in a restaurant at all. And it went over really well. People loved the pizza. It was initially called the Sheesh That's Corny. That was the name for my shishito pepper and corn pizza. Dan, you love that. I know you do.
Terrible.
You want to have me come in, name your cocktails in your menu, please let me know. I'll do that. That was my dream job for a long time. And so anyway, the pizza went over so well that Derek was very proud of me. And he's like, let's put this on special.
Oh,
and so
amazing.
on November 2021, he said, Billy, we're going to put your Sheesh That's Corny on special. So the true origin story of Tripping Billy comes now when 2 weeks before the event, I'm walking my dog. I have a wiener dog named Einstein. And while I'm walking, my leg gives out and I fall. And I've fallen hundreds of times over the years. It can happen for a myriad of reasons. I can have a leg just kind of give out as I walk. I can trip on something on the ground, like maybe uneven ground or like a rock or something that impedes my progress. Well, this time I just fell, and a woman saw me fall. She, instead of reaching and saying, hey, can I help you? Are you okay? She looks at me when I'm on the ground with Einstein and just keeps walking and leaves me there. And when I'm on the ground, I can't just stand up. I have to pull up on something to push up.
Oh, my God.
So when I'm on the ground now, just sitting there, it was like a movie. Everything flashed. The last 8 years of my life flashed in front of me. And I'm sitting on the floor, crisscross applesauce, fuming, also almost ready to cry because I'm just sick of everything. I'm sick of living like this, living this lie that I was essentially living and never really fessing up to what's going on around me and like understanding that I actually have a rare disease and this is not normal anymore. And so I picked myself up and I called Derek, holding back tears, and I said, I want to rename the pizza. I want to call it the Tripping Billy because I lose my balance and fall. And I asked if he can donate a couple dollars to the Muscular Dystrophy Association so I can share my story of reinvention through cooking and through this pizza and turn a really difficult time in my life into a positive. And he was blown away by that. And we alluded to my media career before. I used to receive pitches from people for stories. So I know how to get news out there. Yeah. So I started putting my story out there through social media and, through local press. And I realized like during this month, I started my own little fundraiser for the MDA, the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I raised $3,000 alone in March of 2021. But during that time, like basketball, I started gaining confidence. Like you can hit a couple shots in a row and you feel like you can't miss. And I started to believe that food is my voice and that my voice has power. And I can become the voice for the voiceless and bring attention to a community, the disability and rare disease community that doesn't have, maybe a person that can speak out on that maybe has a platform or is comfortable, behind a microphone or a camera. And I decided to collaborate with Chicago area restaurants with the Tripping Billy initially, but then all of my food. Started doing the pizza. I did sandwiches. I've had my own beer. I've had cocktails. I've done a knish. I've done all sorts of stuff. In the last close to 3.5 years now, I've done close to 100 pop-ups and collaborations all around Chicago with some of the biggest names in the city, and I've raised, more importantly, $76,000 now for the Muscular Dystrophy Association in the last 3.5 years. So it's a story that is not an easy one to put out. It's not going to be a quick sentence. Unfortunately, I'm talking your off about it, but it wasn't something that just happened. It was something that happened because it needed to happen. At the time, I didn't know that. Now, looking back, I believe I was meant to be put in this position. I've been able to build a platform, and I've always had the voice. The voice is much more confident than what it was in my 20s when I was at ESPN. I wish if I had the comfort level and the command of my voice that I have now back in my 20s, I might still be working in that industry. But now it's kind of crazy. I've reinvented just like I reinvented my life, media is a big part of what I do now. Obviously, with the show, with Dan, everything, it gave me the belief that, I could be the one that can step up for a community of people that need it and bring attention in a way that no one ever could. It's just using my voice, my passions, food and sports, and merging them together and just living my life and leading by example.
Everything has brought you here today.
Yeah. It's crazy how it works out. Like, even logistics, the career that I'm in, this career, I don't have any connection to logistics. I don't care. It pays the bills. One day I want to do all this as just the focus while I do all this with a full-time job. But logistics even helps me because I went from very high-pressure jobs, whether it's producing a live radio show to transporting hazardous shipments on a daily basis. So now in the kitchen, when I do these pop-ups and these events, when things go awry and everybody else around me is frantic, oh, I don't care. Oh, running out of dough, is that really going to freak me out? I deal with almost transporting a bomb on a daily basis. I think I'm good, And so that helps me in situations like if I walk into a kitchen, nothing's going to fluster me. And I have confidence that even though I don't have the culinary background that a lot of other people do, I'm cool as a cucumber in those situations.
Yeah, you're the duck. You're smooth on the surface. You might feel anxious underneath, but you know that you're just going to use that fuel to just keep you going. So thank you so much for sharing. I know it's been a difficult journey for you, but at the same time, you're turning it on its head. You're turning the story to be, you're the main character and you get to live it however you want. If you have that lady's face seared into your brain, can we call a sketch artist? Because my God.
Yeah, I feel bad for her. Honestly, like that's just stupid behavior just in general. Like, I can understand I didn't carry a cane at the time. I just could have looked like a dude that just fell or drunk, whatever.
Still.
It's just weird behavior. Yeah. If you ever look at someone who's on the ground, even if they don't want your help, offer it and let them decide if they want it. Yeah, are you okay? Like, this is a whole different, this is going to be another topic for another day, but I feel like the pandemic broke a lot of us, the way we interact with people anymore. We're also fixated that we're all in our own little lane, in our own little world. And I see so many people in grocery stores that have headphones on nowadays that you're in a store, you're in a public area. You need to kind of know what's around you, your surroundings, but everybody's in their own little world. And I think that woman that day, and it's unfortunate, but I thank her. Because, listen, if that didn't happen, and maybe she offered help me that day, this is probably, Tripping Billy's not a thing. And I'm just a home cook like I was before. So, thank you. Miss whatever your name is. I appreciate it. I'm going to buy you a root beer or something one day.
You are above me. I'm like, let's go get her. She is not allowed in the Midwest anymore.
No, I'll bonk her. Well, I'll give you my cane. You could bonk her on the top of the head with it too. But no, it's crazy how things work. It's like the butterfly effect. Things had to happen for me to fall into this place, for us to be connected. I mean, it all comes together.
I'm excited to hear the story of how your friendship started as well. Before we get there,
this is a Billy story again too, man. Because
I'm just here. I'll start it, but you can carry it on.
I mean, this is definitely like, it's just, I think it means more, but there's also like there's another side connection to it. It's cool. It shows just how small our world really is. Like, it's.
So I'll put this on the tee. I'm going to tee this up for you, and then you're going to swing, and you're going to knock it out of the park. Okay?
This is your love story. I can't wait.
So Dan, I was a fan of Dan before, obviously he knew me. I would come to DanDan. I'd make the ride up from Chicago. I had a big connection with Milwaukee in 2019. So my friend's mother passed away in 2019. I probably didn't even tell you this story, but Dan, that is. But in 2019, my friend's mother passed away, and she was like my second mom. I'd never had anybody pass away close to me in my life at that point. And when she passed, it was tough. And I had a weekend trip planned in Milwaukee. And we were going to leave on a Friday night and stay for a couple of days. And on Wednesday, she passed away unexpectedly. The funeral was the Friday. It was all set up to do it. So I went to the funeral. I decided to cancel the trip. I wasn't going to come out. And so I go to the funeral, and it was obviously a really somber morning. And then I started thinking to myself a lot, I'm like, I don't want to just be by myself right now. Like, maybe I should just ride up just to distract myself a little bit. And so I ended up deciding to come back up with my friends, and we were able to come through. And the weekend, although it wasn't like the happiest weekend in the world, Milwaukee kind of helped me through a really difficult weekend. And we were out at your restaurant and to Alley Boys as well for the first time. And it was a weekend that kind of like just gave me calm in that time, and I needed it. And so, again, always a fan of Dan. And then flash forward after probably about a year of doing the collaborations and my story kind of making waves in Chicago, the Chicago Tribune, shout out to Maggie Hennessy, great writer, Edible Words on Instagram. She writes for a lot of different publications, including her Substack. She wrote a beautiful feature on me and my story. And the morning it came out in the Tribune, I got a DM from Dan, who said, hey, man, I love your story. I'm inspired by what you're doing. I was diagnosed with a disease called Kennedy's disease. It's kind of similar to what you're dealing with, but different. But I understand the things that you kind of went through and are going through. And at that point, we just kind of became friends through disease. But then as we got to know each other and our, the relations, and we started like realizing, okay, well, like, hey, kind of both love The Simpsons and we both love sports. And we just started kind of, becoming internet friends, and then, meeting in person for the first time. Came up, made pizza for staff, and then I think you can take it from here, kind of like where we've grown.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. So he showed up to make pizza, and my executive chef, Blair, has been with me for like 15 years. He's like, hey, man, there's like a homeless dude looking like person hanging out outside with like a bag lady cart.
Yeah, that's me.
So Billy shows up in this rickety cart with all of his stuff in there to make pizza for us. And I was like, oh, shit, this guy Billy's going to make pizzas for us.
It's like one of those laundry carts, like those push carts.
You did what you had to do.
I had to get crazy to move stuff. I can't carry it. I got muscular dystrophy.
You got to be scrappy. Yeah.
So he shows up, he cooks pizza for us. And even before that, it was like Mother's Day or something. So my brother is the brewmaster at Goose Island. Oh. He specifically works out of the brew pub. And so the brew pub would do this burger feature where, part of the proceeds go to whatever charity's going with it. They have like a chef or somebody come in and do it. And it happens to be, I just met Billy, and it was the Billy Zureikat Tripping Billy burger or something like that. Yep. And I remember being like, what? Huh? Oh, you know this guy? My brother's like, how do you know this guy? And then so we go back and forth, to each other. But it was one of those things where like me and Billy just kind of hit it off like right away. And it was like, all right, how do we, and it's funny too, because we've talked about this a bunch of times about doing a collaboration, but somehow we just quite haven't put it together. But it will happen sometime in the future. I do really like the idea of doing it in a live podcast and then doing some cooking. But earlier this year, I mean, as I get older, this is something people don't talk about very often, is aging in this industry. This is a young man's game. Like at some point, it just like in sports, you're just not as good as you used to be. Like you're going to kind of age your physicality out. And so I've taken this role now of being much more of a mentor and kind of being a business owner as opposed to being like a cook. And so, I'm looking for this. What does this next phase of my life look like? Like, what do I actually want to do in this next phase of life? Having been on Top Chef, I really enjoyed media. It was something that I think I was shockingly good at outside of cooking. Like
you were fan favorite, 100%.
It was. I was almost fan favorite. Goddamn, Michelle beat me too. I was running. I'm
unofficial fan favorite.
Ever be number 2 as far as that goes? But
you were one of my favorites.
Thank you so much. It was,
Me too.
And I keep hearing that, and it's not something that literally, I was in Denver. I always feel like it's, nobody's going to notice me. And then, we're at a bar. Somebody noticed me. We were walking through the hotel. Somebody noticed us at the hotel. We were at dinner. Somebody noticed us at dinner. And it was like the first night we were in Denver. I was like, well, I guess it still happens. So it doesn't happen so much in Milwaukee. I think everybody's sick of me here, but I feel like it happens everywhere outside. It's been a wild ride, but I think I really want to see what else we can do. And whether that's, podcasting, which is really, it's something that's just really enjoyable. And I always feel like me and Billy just have a great chemistry between us without having to really, it feels very effortless. He is probably the only other person. So I have a business partner, Dan. Nobody else talks as much as I do. Billy is the only person I know that talks more than I do.
Oh, thank you.
It's great. I actually feel like I can sit back and relax. I don't have to just fill empty space. I have somebody else who will actually just fill all of the space. It's great.
Listen, podcasting is for yappers.
No, it's great.
Yeah,
my mom always said I was good at talking.
We all need it. I can sit here and just go forever. But anyways, on to the rest of your story.
We at least talk a couple times a week, and we talk about what else is going on in our lives, like how things are going, like how his pop-ups are going, or how my restaurants are doing, or what I'm thinking about doing. And he sits in front of 2 of my big boards of ideas that go If we turn the camera around over on my side, it looks that you can see a look into my brain, which is a little much, I think, for most people. But Billy gets to like sit here and just kind of like look at how this goes, and we bounce ideas off of each other. I'm working on a pizza puff for a pop-up on Wednesday, like kind of redefining the pizza puff, making it something fancy. And, you know, me and Billy were just talking about it before we got on with you, about how, like, because he's actually done one before. And, you know, he's like, look, you're going too far with it. You just simplify it. And it's great. It's, you know, first off, it's a friendship. Second, it's just something that, you know, this is something we enjoy doing. We love talking sports and food. So it's easy.
Yeah. Simply put, we're just friends.
Yeah.
I think we're friends. And we're just friends. And that's kind of like, just kind of going off of the ideas we have. Well, we both like to share thoughts, and we like to be creative and put our passions out to the world. And I think the world needs that, just in general, not necessarily us, but like they need people that are just passionate.
Yeah.
In a world where a lot of people feel like they don't care about much, we care.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. What was the moment that you two decided, hey, let's do a podcast together? And oh my God, and oh my God, I'm going to put out a podcast?
I called him.
Scary.
I was like, I had this idea. It was actually my wife's idea. Kate actually came up with this one. We were talking about it. I had originally thought about doing a politics and food podcast. And it was one of those things where Kate was just afraid. Politics are very polarizing. And, you know, being in the purple state that we are here in Wisconsin, you know, if you lean a little bit too far to one way, there's always going to be somebody, you know, who's going to come after you. And she was afraid that somebody would come after me. And she was like, what if you, like, you know, she's like, what if you just got rid of the politics and you talked about sports? She's like, you love sports. It's annoying, but you love sports. And she was like, and then somehow, I think it was after Billy and Rachel come up, you guys were up for something, and we took them out for like chicken wings. I was just like, I'm going to take you to this weird bar on a corner that serves like the best chicken wings in the city. And they grill them, which I think is really interesting. It's like they fry them, then marinate them, then they grill them, and then they re-marinate them after that. But it's really good. And after that, Kate was like, why don't you do a sports podcast with Billy? And I'm like, that could work. And I had no idea. I had no prior knowledge that he had worked for Waddle and Sylvie, which was also like one of the first sports radio shows that I watched. You know, I was watching it while he was producing it, like, or listening to it while he was producing it. So it was one of those things that, you know, just kind of all came together, and it came together really easy.
Yeah, he was a huge fan of me, and then no, I'm kidding. No, it's
He's been waiting for this for years.
Moment.
It's weird. It made complete sense. The timing I felt was right, because I've been trying to like carve out what I want to do, and I mean, I do a lot of things. There's not just like, I don't have a title. I do a lot of different things. You know, I don't consider myself a chef, but I'm also not like a home cook anymore, and
you're like somewhere in between.
I'm just myself. I really, I'm not going to have a title. And, you know, social media and content creation is part of what I do, but I don't consider myself a full-time content creator. You know, I have products, but I don't consider myself like a full brand yet. You know, it's like, it's weird. I'm just doing me, and I'm dipping my toe in a lot of areas. And even if I decide to dive in, I'm probably going to dive in a lot of places. You know, there's going to be a lot of pools everywhere, and that's fine. That works out. But it was perfect timing. And it's a fun little passion project, but I think it has much more potential than just passion project. Yeah. I really think it's a niche that is one thing I've learned about being in kitchens, and Dan obviously can attest to it much more than I can, but there is what I like to call the sports ball crowd. I've learned this over the last 4 years in being in kitchens and such. Around the time of Super Bowl, there's a large demographic that works in restaurants that say, I'll say, well, what are you doing for the Super Bowl? I don't care. What's going on sports ball today? Who's winning sports ball? And that always cracks me up. And it was like, I felt it was majority, a good amount of people in the industry that really didn't care about sports. But then there was a few. When I catch a couple chefs that really did like it, we really connected. And it felt, to me, a kitchen is just a sports team. You have, that's all it is. Yeah. You have the same roles. You have the same competitive edge that you need, the same training that goes into it, the same preparedness. All of that goes together. So I think there's a huge niche of food and sports that has not been really tapped into. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a great place for us to start. You know, our tagline essentially is Over the Line, the podcast that blends the world of food and sports. And that's what we try to do. We try to bring it out, and we talk different sports topics, but we talk about a lot of stuff in the kitchen, and then the overlaps, which I think is pretty cool and unique.
And I think there are definitely those parallels of what both industries do for community, right? It brings everyone together. And, just like you said, Dan, even though politics can also be very polarizing, especially these days, again, I now live in Ohio, like, whoa. But, I mean, sports, everyone's got an opinion, and food, everyone's got an opinion. But
That's great.
being able to talk
they're
about
safe.
it.
They're much safer. They're much easier.
But you can all be happy about it.
Have you been
Right?
online during a food? You have been in a comment section online?
Yes.
Oh my God!
See, I really 100% don't
Leave them alone.
look I don't look at reviews. I really try to, I might every once in a while just take a little peekaboo, but I really don't. Like, if I look at Yelp, it's crazy to me. Like, Yelp hates us, yet we're busy every night at DanDan. So
I'm not even speaking about that though. I'm talking about I make cooking videos. So if I cut my tavern style pizzas square, you would have thought I went into your house and stole from you. People are like, "Oh, you can't cut pizza that way." There's so many hilarious hot takes about food, and I think food, as much as I love it, it's the dumbest thing to get mad about. Like, what are you getting mad about? It's so dumb. Like, it's food. Eat what you want. I don't care. Like, it's not that serious.
If you like it, you like it. Or
Yeah.
again, as someone with severe food allergies, the only time I'm like, please just don't kill me. Please, let me survive tonight. But
Yeah.
I just have never seen the point of being I don't understand why you do it that way. I guarantee you, Karen on the other side there has never done it in her life. She just has something to say.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that there's so much kismet that brought you two together. You're now sharing your stories in so many mediums. I mean, we've got food, we've got the podcast, and you're raising awareness for chronic conditions that other folks are dealing with or have family members who are going through this as well, and could make them say, we can all do this. We can all, keep pushing forward, and there's nothing to be ashamed about talking about it. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. That was one of the coolest parts about being on Top Chef was after every episode, I'd get 3 to 6 DMs about how I inspired somebody to go back to whatever they were doing or to continue doing what they were doing. There was a woman who, she quit being a teacher because she was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And she, after seeing me on Top Chef, she was like, you know what, I'm going back. This is what I truly love to do. I don't want this taken away from me yet. I can still do this.
I'm happy
and
to
that
hear
just
that.
means everything.
Yeah,
that just means everything.
it really does. So, wow. I honestly don't know how we have been flying through this hour so quickly. We'll do a last few questions here before we wrap up with the world's best and hardest question. What's something that each of you are proud of? How do you want to continue to grow, and what do you think is next in your journeys?
Good.
Oh man, I was hoping you'd go. Anyways, I'm proud of the fact that, after 9 years, we still have a vibrantly busy restaurant that people keep having their great experiences here. We keep inventing ourselves every night and doing new and cool stuff. And to have just such a supportive team that, just keeps it all moving.
I would say that I'm just proud of growing and accepting. When I first got diagnosed 4 years ago, I said I'd never accept this. And I'd just be mad about this forever. I won the worst lottery you can ever win. And now, knowing the impact that I can make and we can make with our actions, and the fact that I kind of just said everything I wanted to do, I've just kind of said it. And there's been a lot of crazy things that I've thrown out there. I mentioned earlier I'm a dreamer, but I say I'm going to do these things and I do it. And now I believe I will do everything I say. And it doesn't matter if it's 6 months from now or 5 years from now, I'll get it done. And I'm proud of accepting my disease and diagnosis because I know the impact that can be made now. And I looked at myself and said, you know what? You've done a lot. You reinvented yourself, and now you're moving forward. And now you are the one that can lead a community of people, inspire people regardless of health. If you've just been faced with change and you have to change that path a little bit, showing that you can do that. And Dan's done that as well. And it's, I'm proud of looking at and saying, you know what? We've done good things.
Yeah. Very meditative of you is accepting the things that we cannot change, right?
There's no point to
not getting upset about them, right?
Yeah,
Moving forward.
I have bad days. You're going to have bad days. I tell Dan, I say this every time. I'm going to put this on a t-shirt someday. You'll go to some stupid store and it's been some kitschy t-shirt, but it's true. We have good days, we have bad days. And if you have more good than bad, then you're winning.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm going to fall tomorrow. I'm going to hurt myself. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe the day after, but it's going to happen. I can't ignore that, but you just grieve for a little bit, take the hit, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, man. Get up, go on to the next thing.
That's it.
Absolutely. What's a piece of advice both of you would share for anyone who wants to get into the culinary space or start something of their own, be their own entrepreneur?
So if you're going to get into the culinary space, I'd say this to everybody, like, are you passionate about it? Like, is this something that you're passionate about? And it may take a little bit to kind of see what that's like. Jump in, see what it's like. But, have an idea. The idea of somebody opening a restaurant with never having worked in one is crazy to me. Like, I don't see how that works or how that does. But anytime I've talked to anybody who wants to, start in cooking, it's, do you love it? And and if you don't love it, this may not be for you because it's just tough. It's a tough job. You're going to miss out on a bunch of things like birthdays and graduations and Christmas and parties and whatever, because you're going to be working on the weekends. You'll be working when everybody else is playing. And so you have to be incredibly passionate about it. And really, the only way to really get good at it is to do it, and to do it and just live, eat, breathe it.
I would say the best advice, and I'm going to give you more of the social media or home cooks approach to this. Find your voice. Do what works for you. Don't just follow a trend. Do something that's authentic and real. People will adapt and follow, or they'll be attracted to that more than just making a viral feta pasta that everybody else can do. Do something that's more authentic and real, but also just turn the camera on. Because a lot of people, I think the hardest part is just getting started.
Yeah.
And I can attest to that. It was very scary at first. Just start, learn in the process, always try to get better, and everything will fall into place.
Yeah.
Be yourself, and the rest will, like you said, fall into place for you.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, Billy, it's time. A little reminder for everyone, this is called The Perfect Bite because it's a bit of a perfect bite of our folks who are behind the food and bev industry as entrepreneurs, but also because each of us has our own perfect bite, our own unique taste buds, a moment, a family recipe, just something that we ate once that we'll never, ever forget. So I'll ask each of you, Dan and Billy, what are your perfect bites?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
My perfect bite is a Chicago hot dog.
Ah.
A classic, beautiful Chicago hot dog. Go with a char dog.
Yes.
Little extra layer, little snap, little burnt taste to it. Okay. Then you have the acid from the mustard and tartness from the mustard, the acid, the sweetness from the relish, the pickle, little heat from the sport pepper, the crunch and sharpness from the white onion, the tomato that's just there, the celery salt. All of it goes together, and it's like the perfect balance in something that is so casual of a hot dog. And it's not going to reinvent anything, but have you ever had a hot dog and say that wasn't good? No, it's always going to hit. So that's perfect.
I love a hot dog.
Yeah.
Oh, a classic.
That was the most poetic hot dog description I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I think that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Why do I have to follow him, man? This fucking sucks.
You wanted me to go first.
I know. It's I always, and then I got to follow him. So I'm going to go with a cheeseburger. So there's certain things that I think I love more than anything else, and it's a cheeseburger. And I think it's pretty specific. I like a smash burger, so I like that, crispy Maillard reaction that you have in the smash burger, the lacy, crispy bits on the end. American cheese, really melty, very, very just like that layer of fat. And then I like it very simple. So I like raw onion. I like pickles. Mm-hmm. I think you have to have the pickles. I think without the pickles, it's not there. And then, from there you can go condiments, but, I think that to me is if you can just do that well, that's a perfect burger. You can have mayonnaise, ketchup, mustard, or a mixture of the three and call it secret sauce or burger sauce. I think that's fine, but no lettuce, no tomato, none of that bullshit. Just nice, really classic.
Poor tomatoes just got dragged between our two choices.
I don't know, man. My biggest pet peeve is hot lettuce. I'm it's gross. It's
like wilting.
I love me some. It's just, it's I've had arguments with other chefs about this who love just a ton of shredders on there, shredding up the lettuce, putting it on there, and I'm It's just hot. It's just hot salad. It's gross.
I think we could have a full episode too about raw tomatoes, because I'm also one of those people.
Man.
Like I can have tomato in almost every single form. But if you're putting a watery tomato on something, I'm like, I can't do this.
It's got to be like, you got to do August or September. Don't give me a tomato in fucking June or like May or January.
I'm taking it off for sure.
Also,
That's fair.
Also, don't make your own ketchup. Just buy Heinz. Heinz has perfected this. Don't try to be that guy.
I love Heinz. And I love how both of you had such classic dishes, but also there are layers to them. And it takes a lot to perfect them. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
didn't even
you
talk
can't
about the
make them
bun.
great.
I didn't talk about the bun on mine. It's got to be a potato roll. Like you have to have something that's squishy, but also has enough structure to like kind of soak up some of the stuff. Like you can't, like I feel like brioche is too fatty, and I feel like it has to have something that's got a little bit more structure, but it's got to be squishy. It can't be like.
I disagree. No, you can go different buns. I'm not going to. We'll save bun talk for now. We'll save it for our podcast. We'll do a draft of best buns.
You got to go with Like, I mean, with a hot dog, you don't want a Rosen's bun? You don't want just like a straight up Rosen's
No, I need to have poppy seed bun. I know that. But listen,
yes,
you're talking about Mr. Sandwich. I go on my high horse about like layers and elements of sandwiches and how everything's so important. So yeah, I get it. Trust me.
Well,
I'm not here for the brioche slander. That's all.
To each their own. This is what we've also learned from sports and food. To each their own,
yes,
right?
for sure.
Sometimes we just have to say, okay, fine. But listen, next time you guys come to Columbus, we're definitely getting Oreos. And I am coming to Milwaukee when this live show happens. We're going to make this happen. It just sounds incredible. Sure. Thank you, both of you, so much for your time and amazing stories today. To wrap things up, can we let listeners know where to find you? So let's talk social accounts for both of you, any websites, and then where we can listen to Over the Line.
Sure. So socials for me, we got at Chef Dan Jacobs, and that's on Instagram, TikTok, Daniel Jacobs on Facebook, and then chefdanjacobs.com.
You can follow me on Instagram at @TheRealBillyZ. Follow me on TikTok at @TheRealBillyZ_. I don't know why. I think I may have screwed that up, so I end up having to get the underscore. I think I lost my login for the account. My website's www.trippingbillyz.com. You can follow Over the Line at _Over the Line podcast _ on Instagram. You can find us on wherever you stream your podcasts. It's Over the Line with Dan Jacobs and Billy Zureikat. And we're trying to grow that out. So give us a follow, like, subscribe, swipe up, leave comments, do all that stuff.
Amazing. And then in the show notes, I'll also include the websites for the different foundations that we can help support on your behaves.
Appreciate that. Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Dan, how much have you raised now?
I've raised over $130,000 in the last 7 years. 7 years.
What was the organization again?
The KDA.org.
Awesome. And then I've raised, like I said, the $76,000 for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. It's the largest non-government organization that's trying to find a cure for muscular dystrophy, ALS, and other different neuromuscular diseases. So we appreciate anything. And even if you don't have the means to donate, honestly, the big thing, share our stories. If you heard us today and you're inspired by what you're doing, literally just share our social profiles. More eyes and ears, I think, matter than more any dollar that can be raised. So we appreciate you, and thanks for having us today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. And everyone, this was Billy Zureikat and Chef Dan Jacobs' Perfect Bite.
Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.